Are we good? All right. All right, everyone. Thank you for coming and joining me for my first workshop. And I'm going to be going over I'm going to be going over an intro to AR and VR with a focus on AR a little bit later on. So I'm going to go a bit more into the specifics later, but I'm Bilal, as your host, and just a little bit of details about myself. So I'm a workshops and talks team member, and I have some previous experience with AR and VR, and a bit of that experience is highlighted here, being that I've worked in what do you call it? I've made an MVP for a seed stage startup in my McMaster Forge, where I made a CPR training application in AR using the tech stack of just MRTK, what do you call it, Unity, C#, and also a little bit of Blender. So I have a very full scope understanding of what you guys really need to make an app in for AR. And if anyone has any questions relating to any of this, I'm always free to answer. And another app that I made for VR specifically would be the app that I made in Delta Hacks, which was made for practicing interviews and really reduce the amount of filler words you say in those interviews. So it was using some cool speech recognition technology and stuff like that. So I made that app then. So if any of you have any questions relating to that, I'm always open to answer them. So that's a little bit about myself. But before we even begin any of the and really like before I even begin introducing all the topics, I would like to just set up the project. So to set up the project, I'm gonna share my screen first. So what we need to set up first is, so we need to follow all these steps. So you should have gotten instructions to download what we need to for Unity Hub. And in Unity Hub, you need to make sure you're on the right, what do you call it, version type of 2020.2.1 F1. So click that. It's gonna say the version right there. So make sure that's correct. And then I'm gonna just name it workshop example. You guys can name it whatever you want, but you click that, make sure it's 3D since it is an AR application. And then you click create, and then it should start creating the application. What I'm just trying to get set up right now is main part, like this is going to be the main application that we're going to be working on. And there's a few prerequisites that need to be imported into the applications, which I'm going to be going over. And a few of those is just like what you get from the features tool. Going to be going over a bit of the details of that in a bit after we're done importing everything here. But I'll let that import and start up the application. As you can see, it is loading. Yeah, so I'll let that load, and in the meantime, I'm going to go over today's agenda, right? So today's agenda for us is we're going to be going over basics of extended reality, or in short form, it's XR, and then a bit of the details of the hardware that we're really developing for, being Microsoft HoloLens 2, and a bit of the details for that, and the introduction to Unity. And then just because that's the main development platform that we're going to be using, with a bit of C# and basics of MRTK for AR development. So the whole tool and what it's really made for, and just a bit of the details for that. And then a demo application making use of solvers, which I'm going to explain a bit, but those are very important to just quick development and prototyping. So as that application's being made right now, I'm gonna just let it be made and then just go over a bit of the basics of extended reality. Do you guys have any questions up till now? If you do, please put them in the chat and I'll be sure to answer them as quickly as I can. But I'm going to be going over a lot of the later things a bit faster just because there's a lot to go over. And just remember that everything's going to be recorded. So don't worry about if you're not able to follow through with every step that I'm going to be going through. So the motivation behind learning about AR is that there's a lot of use cases, right? And one of the more bigger use cases is video games, and AR and VR is just that there's a lot of immersive gaming experiences being made right now. And if you just learn this technology right now, you're going to be a very rare few that really know about this. So that's a very nice application of it. Another one is an emerging healthcare application. So the things that are for like combining training for different procedures in the medical field. It really helps with that. So you really get to learn a lot about. So my experiences with healthcare applications too, since I made something for a first aid training program, since it was a CPR training application, right? So really, there's a lot of these that are happening right now. And another one that's pretty useful is the use in real estate and interior design. Real estate is just that rather than building a full house, you can just give the client an experience in AR if you want, and then they can have the exact dimensions and everything that they would need in real life, and then they can experience exactly what you want them to experience, what you have envisioned in your mind, and that really helps you communicate your message, your ideas really well. And interior design is a similar case. It's just that you don't need to bring in all this expensive equipment. You can just design it on a computer and then let the user experience it with their phone or just a headset of some sort and then experience what you're kind of envisioning. So again, similar thing, it really helps with communication. So the high level differences between AR and VR are as follows. So AR really is for augmenting or changing what you're seeing in the physical world. So by displaying holograms and such in your physical world, so really integrating with that. Well, VR is just really digital, just a completely different world that you're going to be like creating the experiences in. The hardware differences are that AR is usually run on smartphones more so right now, but just looking through your camera lens and showing you different things in your own environment. And there's also headsets like the HoloLens 2, but they're really inaccessible by the normal consumer markets due to their high prices, but they're really useful in the AR, like the environments of, oh, it seems the application's kind of stuck. But let's just say AR. So it's I'm trying to load up the features tool, but it seems like the update checker is stuck for some reason. Yeah, you know what? Sorry for this inconvenience, but I will try to restart that and go back to this slide while I do that because it seems like Unity is stuck and I need to restart it. So just give me a second. With Unity Hub. In my task manager to just cancel this application. Okay, let's try again. Unity Hub. This is a thing with like it happens at times. It doesn't really happen with me a lot, but it sometimes happens. So let's see if everything's loaded in. I'll start sharing my overall screen again. Screen one. Okay, yeah. So as you can see, it did work. It's just like Unity was kind of stuck. So after you've done making the project and it opens like this, you know it's properly made and everything. Do not change anything right now. You can just close it because you don't really need it. And another thing that you kind of need for development is, what do you call that? So I have it right here. You can see the zip file right here. It's called the Microsoft Features tool, and that's really what you import everything in to your project with. So just extract it really quickly, extract all of it. It extracts right there, as you can see. And then after you have extracted everything from the zip file, you can double click this features tool right here, and it opens the application. Then you click start, and then go to your project's location. As you can see, workshop example. So whichever folder you save it in, just go inside of there. And after you've gone to this screen, click open, discover features. And then after you discover features, what you need to really click is this, and this. Examples is what contains a lot of the boilerplate type of things that you need. So a lot of the boilerplates are in the examples. Extensions has a few extra features. Foundation is the necessity for developing anything in MRTK. So you just have to have this. And standard assets are a few more assets that you can freely use that are being used in examples. So if you want some of those, you can get the, what do you call it, the standard assets, and then you just tick all of those, and then you click get features, right? And then click import, approve. It's gonna take a lot longer than it's seen. Like it does it for me instantly just because I've downloaded it once already, but it's gonna take you guys a bit of time. So it's fine if it's loading, but you should eventually get to this screen, right? Sorry if I'm going too fast, but just remember the recording part. And if you have any questions, so workshop example has been updated, and please return to Unity to load the imported features. We're not going to be doing that right now. That's going to be mainly done in the demo section, right? So just click exit. You're done with that, and your project should be ready to be open. Next, okay? So just going a bit forward with a bit of this stuff. Present, as you can see. New share. Just wait up a second. Right. Okay, so now you can probably see my screen again. And now I'm gonna go into a bit of the hardware details. So the HoloLens 2 that we're really using right now is it tracks everything very accurately that you're gonna be using in like for navigating and understanding your environment. So it has head tracking capabilities with 4 visible light cameras. And with that and a bunch of other sensors in the IMU section, which I'm going to be going over in a bit, but the head tracking is very accurate. And there's some also eye tracking that really helps you get the gaze of the camera, the gaze of your eyes to just see where you're looking, and that can be tracked into your applications because the API really helps you with that, the MRTK. There's also depth sensors that really tell you where you're located, and it uses a time of flight sensor, which is essentially it fires a beam of light and then it comes back in some certain amount of time, and then that allows you to get the depth from how long it takes since the speed of light is constant. And using that, there's also accelerometers, gyroscopes, and magnetometers in the headset. And that's really what allows it to have all 6 degrees of freedom, as you can see in this diagram right here. So it can very accurately detect like any sort of movement in the headset. And there's also a camera in front that takes the 1080p 30p video. But that's really for the machine learning models that's already inside of the, what do you call it, the headset. And that really helps you track your hands and what do you call it, in MRTK. So in the demo, you're going to see there's a simulation of hands. And then when you use it in real life, your hands are tracked very accurately with the 8 megapixel cameras on the headset. So a bit of the limitations of this headset is the limitations arising from just like the headset's lenses and such. So the ideal location for where you can place larger holograms and stuff is 1.25 meters away from you and less than 5 meters away from you, as you can see here. And that's called the focal plane. And then if you want to have like the exact experience that you see in your environment in, like, let's say Unity, you would place it in those distances. And those distances can be mapped by just experimentation when you get the headset, and then you can run your application from your headset to just and then stream it on your headset right there. So you can really experiment with that. But there's a few exceptions with the 1.25 meter rule with really small ones, which I'm going to be showing you in the demo. So going a bit more into the Unity section of it. So Unity is a very pivotal part in developing this application, just because like all of the work is done in Unity with since the whole environment is based out of there. So the whole toolkit that I'm going to be going over is based in Unity. So a basic understanding of Unity really helps with understanding how to actually develop these apps. And as you can see, the Unity UI here, this might seem very unfamiliar to you if you've never seen this before. And I'll be going over the basic main windows of here that are present here and just go over the simple terminology that exists. So going over with the left window being the hierarchy window right here. So the hierarchy window contains the scene, which has all the different components, or the game objects rather, which are like generic objects that can do literally anything in your scene. They can be physical objects, it can be contributing to like let's say for specifically here, as you can see here, mixed reality toolkit, that's not a physical object, right? But rather that's more like for creating integration between the HoloLens. So it's the whole API right there. So it can come in the form of a game object and then it can do a lot. It's very powerful being there. And then there's the whole scene, which contains all of the different game objects, and then um, they can be changed as necessary in a bit. So on the right of that is the view windows. So there's the scene window where you can see like where you can edit everything, where you can make all the changes, and then you can see your X and Y plane. Sorry if you can't see that here. But yeah, as you can see right here is the X and Y plane. And then it just you can change all the views and stuff, so you can move with your mouse and stuff around the view, and you can go more into the specifics of that later on. And then the asset store has all the assets that you can download off the Unity store, and they can be either free or paid depending on quality and what the designer has thought. So there's a bunch of stuff there. And then there's also the game window, which is where the real simulation runs. So as you can see the play button right there, that's how you run the game simulation or whatever application simulation. So the second you click on that, it automatically jumps to the game window and shows the game experience as the user would see it. And then you can adjust your camera and stuff from your scene and stuff later on, which I'll go more into detail. And the inspector window is really to inspect the game objects. And the game object that is here is a directional light. So if I go back to the hierarchy window, you click on the directional light here, right? And then it's going to show up in the inspector right there. And then all the different components of the directional light should be right there, being the transform, where it's located, what type of rotation, and the relative scale it has to the original imported model, right? And then these game objects can have any sort of components you wanted them. So you can just make a generic game object and put in a light into it, and then you have made a directional light from there if you know how to configure the light component and the light script, right? So a lot of that is just done right there, and then you can change all the settings as you need to, and the details of that can be explored on your own free will. But like there's a lot that you can do all without coding if you want in Unity, but it really helps. So the project window is essentially your file viewer. So anything you can use in your application is like ready for quick access right there. If you find something, let's say you imported like the features like we did, right? Like in a few minutes ago, you can do the same thing here and then just get them into your project. And then a few more details about MRTK, the whole like just overview of it. So it's a tool made for developing mixed reality applications in Unity with C Sharp. Has features to support multiple platforms like the Windows platform, Microsoft Windows platform, Oculus, and then OpenVR. OpenVR has famous things like the HTC Vive underneath it. Oculus has Oculus Rift, and the Windows platform really has the HoloLens, which I'm really going to be going into detail with, right? as always, I know I'm going over fast, so just remember the recording. So a bit of the features of the MRTK for AR is that it it has a bunch of different input systems, solvers, and different UI features, and these are only a few of the features, but there's a lot of them in the application that you can go and look at the docs, which I'm going to be showing at the end and in during the demo, and you can look up a lot of different things. So really take advantage of the docs because they're made in a very like readable manner. So and they're very beginner friendly. So if you start learning this program early, you're going to be very set for the future of MRTK as it evolves. So going a bit more in depth with the input systems, there is the far pointers and the near pointers. The far pointers have the far interaction, so like the raycast from your fingers, from your what do you call it, from your VR and what do you call it, AR controllers that you can have, and they can raise events like focus and also grab. So you can physically like pinch objects, and then and if your raycast is over top of an object, it can raise an event for that. So if you have event handlers on the objects, it can do whatever you need it to do from the events being raised. And similarly, there's near pointers that handle um, near interactions like poking and grabbing. And then you similarly have classes to handle those. So near interaction touchable. So poking is considered touching in this, and then near interaction grabbable. So whatever you wanted to do after you grab it and let go and all those different things, there's a lot of those. And those are a few of the inputs that you can give in just specifically in the AR environment, right? So a few of the UI features, there's a lot of them, but one of the basic ones is the buttons, and then you can learn a lot from the buttons, how the near interactions work, because they're the building block of a lot of the larger components like slates and stuff that you can see on the docs website, and then you can export them from the examples and then just change them as you see fit and really learn how this whole MRTK ecosystem really works. And then there's also scripts that handle the UI. So there's a manipulation handler. So if you want some sort of interaction to raise conditions to rotate an object, scale an object, move an object, this is a very good like pre-made script that you can just drag and drop everything you need and change a few settings to make it work with your objects and really just rotate them by like just spinning them and scale them just by just like pulling one of their edges or something like that, or just move them as you see fit. There's a lot of different things you can do with that, but there's a lot of different scripts like that that you can really take advantage of. And then I'm not really going to go into solvers just in the slide fashion because I believe it's much easier to just go into detail with it in the actual application. So I'm going to do that right now. So I'm going to share my screen as normally. Okay, so going over, not that. So let's start the demo. So make sure. So as you can see here, workshop example that I just made, you just click it once and it should load in everything that it needs to. So it's starting the server, it's resolving all the different packages, right? So in the meantime, that is really configuring everything that it needs to for MRTK after we exported from the features tool previously, right? So it's going to be initializing scripts, and as you can see here, foundation is importing all of those things in, just setting everything up for you to use, really. So just a bit about the docs, right? So you're gonna start off with in the docs from like right here, and then you want to learn anything about it, right? So let's say you want to learn about the features, like everything that is in the toolkit, right? You click on, let's say, boundary system overview, and then there is very detailed explanation of everything that you need here. And then this is a good starting point for really understanding everything. But as soon as we get into the actual project, you can see the details of it. So it is done halfway right now and it's still going. So I'm gonna let that go. So any questions up till now in the chat? Pardon? No questions? Okay. I guess, yeah. I can just keep explaining a bunch of these different things. So there's a lot of different, pardon? The download links for, oh yeah, that's also just present here. So let's say you want to download something, right? So let's say you go to packages, MRTK packages, right? So, let's see, yeah, install the tools. There you go. What you need for this. So right here, you need Unity. It says to do that. So you get Unity Hub, and then you can download the version of Unity you want from there. And then step 2, you need the features tool right here. And then you can right click and open. And then it gives you all the details you need about it. So very detailed docs if you want to, this rather than listening to me, you can just read over a lot of these different things and understand them from there. So there's some information there. And then after you get the features tool, you can just import everything in. And oh, it seems that it has worked. All right. So it's gonna say it's gonna have some options here. Do not touch them. Just click apply. It's gonna apply them, right? So as soon as that's done, you should see a mixed reality toolkit option here. And then actually before that even, let's check our packages to see what the impact of I'm gonna have a sip of water. All right. So here it's going to show you a lot of the different like examples, extensions, foundations. So everything you import here is going to be here in the packages. Okay. So if all of those are here, that's the first good sign that everything has worked. And then if you can see the option on the top for Mixed Reality Toolkit, you're good to go. So you click Add to Scene and Configure. And there you go. You are officially at this point in a AR project. You just click Save. What is this? Okay, whatever. Scene 2. I don't know why it's doing that, but yeah, you can just save the scene, right? Scene is what encompasses every detail of your project. So all of that is right here in the workshop example. And then it's an AR application right there. So let's see what the changes are from like a normal application, right? So it's going to show you the frame rate and all of the different statistics. And then you can make your hand appear by just pressing space bar. And then you can do a bunch of different things with your hand, like turn it around, grab things. And then you can also rotate, which is doing right click and moving without it. So all of your statistics should be there. But if you can see all of this, you're in an AR application at this point. Then you can just stop playing it by clicking that button and you're good to go. Right, so there's a few different things you need to really understand here, right? That are like pivotal to understanding this application. So when you click the toolkit over here and you want to change, let's say, a setting about your input, right? You want to change some specific setting. There's a basic profile that's already set up that you cannot change. The reason you cannot change that is because that's like the default one for all of MRTK. So what do you do to change that? You click clone right here. After you click clone, then you can just click this button. Just don't change anything, clone, and there you go. You're able to first access all of these different options, right? So let's say you now have the ability to change these different things. And let's say you want to change something about the inputs, right? You can't change them right here. You can only see a look at them, right? So it's only view. You click clone again, create another profile for specifically changing this. And let's say you want to change something about the hand tracking, right? Oh, it's not letting you change it again. So you need to clone the default profile to be able to change this. So clone it again. And there you go. You can change anything you have. So you can change the mesh visualization. So you have everything right now turned on. It's going to take a lot of power to do that. And you can just turn it to nothing if you like. And then you're not going to be able to see it anywhere. And then it's going to save a lot more power when you're like in terms of CPU power and the frame rate and all the performance you're going to be getting when you're simulating on your headset. It's going to be much better if you just have something like this turned off, right? And there's a lot of different settings right here, speech settings. If you want to do speech recognition, there's a lot of that here. Just a lot of built-in stuff that you can take advantage of here. So very important for developing here. So after you're done that, and I don't really want to change it. I was just doing that for demonstration purposes. And after you're done that, you just save it. Nothing changes because you didn't make any changes, right? Now, after you've done that, you can check out a lot of these different the packages in the project window, right? So let's look at the examples, right? So there's examples, standard assets, prefabs, prototyping. And then there's a bunch of different assets that you can put in. So if you want, let's say, an octa here, you can have it here. And then you can zoom in with your scroll wheel, right? And then you click right click to do that. And then you click the middle mouse button to just pan it, right click to rotate. And that should be enough. And what do you call it? Yeah, just you can pan it and stuff. So you can see the object right here. You can click any of these axes and move it as you need be, but I don't really need this, so I'm just gonna delete it. But for demonstration's sake, that is a possible option. Right, so moving on from there, you can do what we really want out of the examples is one of the important UI components, right? So let's go into the UI component and let's look at it. So you go into common prefabs and click that. And then as you can see, a bunch of them loaded in. You want to click on this. It's a very like long name. It's called hand menu small hide on hand drop. And it's going to be located in packages, mixed reality toolkit examples, common prefabs, right? Going over a lot of this fast because I have to get through a lot of different things. So you do this, right? You drag and drop this and just import everything that it says to import just because that's not already in your project. But it's this TMP essential is your text, right? So just import as you need, as it needs to. It's gonna just quickly import everything. Just wait for it. And yep, it has imported everything. Looks kind of huge, but don't worry about it. It's gonna look normal when you actually load into it. There's just kind of a glitch here. So yeah, I'll give a small demonstration of how this works. So what you did was literally just drag and drop this, and then there's going to be something pretty cool that you can do with it. So you click play. It takes a bit because it's loading in a bunch of different things, right? So right click to move around, right? And then click space, right? And then keep it close to you. And then click control, okay? Then you can rotate your hand. And then there you go. The second your palm goes up or goes towards you, you can see a menu. That's not the best place for it, right? Okay, that should be good enough. Yeah, so there you go. I can zoom into it by just letting go of control. And then you can see there's a bunch of buttons that show up right there, right? And then if this was in real life and you just turned your hand like this, right? It's gonna show up right beside your hand. And then you can interact with a different hand. And then let's show you what happens when you turn it around. You turn it back around, it's gone, right? So the second you turn it around, the UI is gone. And then you have that feature just like built in if you want the UI to come up when your hand just comes up. So that's a very simple example of what you can do with it. And this component makes use of something very important called solvers, right? So a bit of details about solvers. So I'm going to go into the actual docs, but as you can see, the two main solver things that you have here are that's not necessary, follows not necessary. But what you have here is the solver handler, and solver handler is the parent class that you always kind of need. So it's the script that you need to add to your component or the game object always, and then you can show whatever it's going to be tracking, right? So this one, it tracks a hand joint. That is like anywhere in the hand, right? So, and which hands does it track? It tracks both hands. So you can change it to left, right, or both, but it tracks both right here. And then there is a track join, and it can be literally any here, as you can see. And if you understand all of this, you can just test it out, right? If you want to just make it work for only the thumb tip, right? You can do it. Very specific different things that you can do here to just customize it exactly what you want without even touching any bit of code, right? That's an option you have with this whole setup. And a bit more is the hand constraint palm-up. Yeah, so the hand constraint palm-up, you can choose a safe zone and stuff. And then the main details here are, you can read about all of this in the documentation, but the main things are on hand first detected. And when is the hand going to be first detected? When the palm is up, right? So, and it takes an object, right? And it takes in any object, which is a game object. And to really understand game object, if you've worked in Java before, you can do, what do you call it? If you know generic types, you can just place in, what do you call it? A menu or just any type, any game object. And all of the game objects have the property of being active or not active, right? And you can see this right here, like directional light. This ticker right here is the active or not active. So if it's not active, it doesn't show up. And if it's active, it shows up, right? So the second is detected, meaning your palm is up, right? It's gonna set it to active right there. And the second it's lost, AKA it is just not seen anymore, it's gonna be set in inactive, because here it's being set active and then it's being set inactive by this. Set active doesn't mean literally set active, it means setting the active property of the object. So set it true, set it false. That's the simple details of it, right? And then a bit more, if you want to learn a lot more about this, you can you can click something like solver handler, or let's see this script, right? If it has a hashtag here, it's script, right? So you can do edit script and let Visual Studio open as it needs to. And then it is gonna show you, it's gonna take a bit because Visual Studio is just like, it loads in a lot of dependencies at once. Give it a second. Okay. So it's loaded up, and then very well documented class here. And then if you want to understand anything here, it's very easy because they document here in the summary exactly what it does. and then you can just mess around with it as you want. So you can essentially just copy paste this whole entire class into a script of your own in the assets and place it into any object to really customize things. So if you want to get the really nitty-gritty details of how everything works, you can do a lot with this. Like for CPR training, I did a bunch of stuff by understanding this. And if you want to really learn it, this is a really good source. But another source you can have, I'm just going to close this, is the documentation. So there's a button right here for documentation. You can just click on it. And there you go. It goes to the solver's documentation, right? And here it's a very nice overview of all the different solvers that you can use. So the base abstract class right here, all solvers derive from, is solver, and then the solver handler is what you need in every object. So it says the reference object and to track against and everything like that. So it's like the basic settings of it. Then there is a bunch of different solvers that you can use. Surface magnetism is a really cool one that I mentioned before. You can just like cast rays to surface and align the object to the surface. So get a UI to stick to a wall or literally anything else you want to stick to a wall. Very cool thing. And like you can have indicators and stuff. And then there's a hand constraint palm up that we were using before, which is for turning your hand up and showing the UI. So that's something we use. So, and if you want to learn more about it, right? You click on this, it jumps to it. And then there you go. A bunch of different explanations about it. And just get started, get a very high level understanding here. If you want to get to a lower level, you can go to the script and really get into the details of it. Take advantage of the documentation. It's very useful for understanding these complex concepts, right? So there's one thing I would also like to mention is that these projects sometimes crash when you like run them. So just be careful of that and save often, right? So none of those crashes happen. And yeah, just these solvers are very useful and you can learn a lot from doing these different things. And I guess, yeah, there's a bunch of different things that you can do here, sliders and stuff. Just go read over them. If you have any questions about them, you can ask me too, like in the chat and stuff. But if you don't have any questions, that was pretty much the end of the demo. I didn't want to go into too much of the coding details because I've already gone over so much in this 1 hour, what do you call that, workshop. And if there are any questions or if you think I went really fast over something, I can go over it. I've got some time, right? And if you guys say something in the chat, I can definitely go over it. So that's it for the demo. Just a very simple drag and drop thing to just get you guys started off and writing your own scripts if you'd like, and just using a bunch of different things, right? So what I went over in the entirety of this workshop was basics of development in AR, just how you need to develop, the differences between AR and VR, very high level ones, and just like how MRTK development works. And there's a link right here for what you can go to. So there's a link right here. And let me just share it correctly. Right, so you can click on this link if you'd like, and you can see the whole MRTK for Unity and just read over everything, get a nice understanding of what all the tools are for, and then the examples. There's a bunch of different examples that are already made by MRTK that are like full projects with different type of interactions. Like you can do like touching buttons, like scaling things up, bounding boxes, a bunch of different things, right? So that's a really good place to get started off by just messing around with things and learning from experience, right? Since I also did that in my co-op. So if you guys would like to do that, you can do that. And a bit more into the details of if you would like to contact me, there's my LinkedIn right there. And I'm always open to just mentoring anyone and just talking to anyone. But yeah, that's it for me. If you guys have any questions, I'm here for a bit. But yeah, no questions? How many viewers? Oh, 10. That's good. So that means most people attended. Yep. If I'm gonna keep sharing.
Yeah, you can just go to the intro slide again, and that should be good.
All right. Yeah, I'm here to help. I also got a DM from someone just asking me,
That's good.
what do you call it? If the event was right now,
Oh,
but I
yeah,
couldn't really answer it during this. But yeah,
the recording is available, so they can always access
yeah,
it right
it's.
after.
I'm gonna message him in a bit. Asking him.
Yeah, I think there's no questions. You covered a lot of it. But thank you, Bilal, for hosting. With that, I will be stopping the stream now. Thank you guys for coming out. Hope you have a great night.
Yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate the time you guys spent here. Always open to more questions and networking. So thank you for this.
Thank you.
All right.
Just a second.